Good morning, YouTube fans. It is Friday, June 9th, 2023. The time is 10:20 in the morning, and we have just launched at the county park ramp at Kelseyville on the southwesterly shore of Clear Lake. And our plan today is to head westerly over to Lakeport, and we'll have lunch there and then row back. The weather forecast today was for a high of 71, calm in the morning, with the winds at 6 miles per hour in the afternoon out of the west-southwest. So we'll see how it's going. Right now the wind is coming a bit out of the northwest, and I'm guessing that it's blowing about 5 miles an hour. I'm going to stop here and take an anemometer reading. 4.2 for 3.9, so yeah, about 4 miles an hour. There's a long fetch here. The wind coming out of the actually north, now that I've stopped my motion through the water. So the true wind is out of the north, and it has about a 12-mile fetch from the north shore over here. So if it were blowing 6 or 7 miles an hour, there would be whitecaps out here. But everything's looking good here. Beautiful day. On the way over here, there was low fog, and I was using my windshield wipers some. But as I came over the pass at Cobb Mountain, I could see the fog had burned off over here. Still some pockets in the low spots, but those are gone now. So, if the wind does what it's supposed to do, it's going to be a perfect day. The mussel inspector, a fellow from Amsterdam, Holland, his name is Christian, and he said that they were having a fishing derby today, and that the weigh-in was at, I think she said 2:45, and there was something over 200 boats out here on the lake. So it might get kind of crazy. There are two launch ramps in Lakeport. One is on 5th Street, right adjacent to the Lakeport Yacht Club, and the other one is about 2 blocks south of that at the south end of the park. So both of those ramps will be pretty much a zoo, as will the dock area, since when they come in after a derby, to the best of my knowledge, they tie up to the dock and run up to the weigh-in station with their catch, and then they get around to taking their boats out. So there is a beach there. When the water's down a bit, I don't Don't know how much of a beach there is with the lake up as full as it is. So if the dock is completely jammed, it might be that I'll be able to move my ballast into the stern and put the boat up on the sand. That would be very nice. I don't remember they have any rock riprap along there, so we'll see when we get there. Lovely day. Lovely, lovely. If I remember, on the way home, I am going to drive east on Highway 29 over to Lower Lake and maybe even go up to Lakeport to the ramp there and see if I can get any information on the condition of the seagrass or lake grass that is growing near the outlet to the lake at Lower Lake into Putah Creek. It's been a year and a half ago I launched at Lakeport the idea of rowing down to the southeast corner of the lake and going downstream on Putah Creek to the dam that controls the lake level. And we were probably a mile to maybe a 3/4 of a mile from the where you had to kind of turn and start aiming for Putah Creek, for the mouth of the creek. And we were rowing along and the boat just came to a stop. Not an abrupt stop, it just stopped. And I looked around and I had rowed into a mat of grass, seagrass, lake grass. And it took me about 20 minutes to get out of the stuff because it was just almost like I had rowed ashore. And I put the oars in the water and they just tangle in that mass and not want to be pulled. It was that thick. So considering the massive rain storms that we've had this year that filled the lake back up, I'm wondering if maybe the velocity of the water might have cleared some of that grass out. And if it has, I'm going to try to get up here again and do that Putah Creek row from the highway bridge all the way down to the dam. So it's only about, I'm guessing, a mile and a quarter or something like that. But I won't be able to do it if the grass hasn't cleared out. I'm really happy that I have a GPS that's working on account of I don't think I'd be able to find the launch ramp again without a lot of fiddling around. The whole shoreside along there has got heavy woods right down to the water, and the launch ramp is back up a little channel about 300 feet from the entrance buoy, and unless you're lined up with that channel and happen to be looking at that moment, you wouldn't be able to see the ramp at all. This is the first time we've rowed down at this end of the lake. I've been on Clear Lake up at the east end one time, that first time out of Lakeport, rowing down toward Lower Lake, and the second time was up at the northeast end of the lake at Clear Lake Oaks, and the weather forecast wasn't all that good for wind, and the 4 or 5 miles an hour that I expected was about 8 or 9 miles an hour, and there was like a 17-mile fetch, and the chop on the water, it wasn't really breaking whitecaps all that much, but the waves were, I'm going to guess, about 24 inches high, and the period between the waves was something like 8 or 10 seconds. And so the boat was just basically climbing up a wave, or actually stopping because it hit a wave, and then slamming down into the trough. And I tried to go upwind a ways and finally turned and did a counterclockwise turn around Rattlesnake Island, which is about a quarter of a mile or half mile offshore there, and then rode back into sort of a Keys area where they had dug channels back away from the lake, and there were houses on all the channel docks, and there was a lot of weed back in there, so I explored around a bit and then just quit. I don't think I made much more than 4 miles that day. And I tend not to come over here because the wind conditions are more than I want to deal with. But if it holds like it is, we'll be doing just fine. Bass boat's still in high gear out here, trying to catch more fish before the weigh-in. There are a few Canada geese out here. This end of the lake is quite marshy, and so it's good habitat for nesting water birds. And there's a dead fish floating on the surface. The westerly end of Clear Lake is the main body of the lake, and it's about I guess it's about, I thought it was 12 miles, but I think it's more like 6 or 7 miles in diameter. I'll have to look, I don't really remember. Anyway, the average depth of this main body of the lake is something like 7 or 8 feet. I think the deepest place, turn, I see something growing out of the water we're heading for. The deepest place out in the middle of the lake, this part of the lake, I think is only like 27 feet. When I used to race over here, if a boat capsized and turtled, you could always tell who'd done it because the top 3 or 4 feet of their mast and sail would be covered with mud, having been driven into the bottom of the lake. Wind's dying off a bit right now. Appears to be, might be just in a spot where there's a lull. The water's all of a sudden gone very glassy. Beautiful view off to the north with some wispy cumulus clouds over the mountains to the north of the lake. Oh, big fish just jumped about 100 feet ahead of us. Looked like it was about 18 inches or maybe a couple of feet long. Big fat thing. You guys in the Derby?
Yeah, let's go, man.
So how you doing?
Tough, man. Good.
Back, I think it was about 1975, was the weekend before Easter. The Lakeport Yacht Club has their spring regatta, and on Saturday there wasn't all that much wind, and the water was pretty choppy because there had been a bit of a storm blowing through the night before, but it was doable. And then there was a big storm Saturday night, and then on Sunday morning the wind had dropped to practically nothing, but there was still this huge waves on the lake. They weren't breaking, but they were very sharply pointed and close together because of the shallow water. And we started the race, and it was bam, crash, boom, crash, and hardly making way at all. And then the wind began to build a bit. It was coming kind of out of the southwest, and we were headed to south, and so we were close hauled, and then the wind began clocking around, so we were pretty soon on a beam reach and planing, and the wind just kept getting stronger. And we were about 150 yards from the what had been the weather mark, and all of a sudden everything out in front of me just disappeared. What had happened is the wind had gained incredible strength with just no warning at all, and it had blown the tops off all the waves, and that was the spray, and it was probably 4 or 5 feet above the water, and you couldn't see anything. And if the raindrops or the spray drops hit your bare skin, it felt like somebody was throwing rocks at you. And all of a sudden the wind got a whole lot stronger, huge gust, and I slammed the helm down, brought the boat head to wind. We'd been on starboard tack, went head to wind, and got the mainsail down and got the boat under control, got it cleaned up. It had about 6 inches of water in it because we heeled over that far and had taken on water. And I looked up at the mark, which I could just barely see through that spray, and all the boats that had been up at the mark were upside down. And we got the boat backed up and got wind in the jib. And I said, well, as long as we're this close to the mark, we'll go around the mark, so we'll have to go out around all those boats that are upside down, guys in the water. And so we did that and took off back south, or excuse me, north down the lake. We were offshore about, half mile, something like that. And the dock and the next mark were both in the same direction, so we just headed in that general direction, and we were planing with just a little 35 square foot jib up, and we opened the bailers and through-hull bailers in the bottom of the boat, and they sucked the boat dry in no time at all. And after about 20 minutes, the wind quit, absolutely stopped. And because the squall that came through had blown the tops off all the waves, there were no more waves. The lake was like glass, and just barely enough wind to make way once we'd raised the mainsail again. And there was one other boat still sailing on the lake, and that was Jack and Peggy Hammer and their day sailor. And Jack and Peggy Hammer had been the ones who actually taught me how to sail after having sailed for 13 years and realizing that I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So out on the lake there were something like, between probably 50 and 75 boats, and there were broken masts. There were sails that were completely just torn to shreds, boats upside down, people in the water, Coast Guard auxiliary had their work cut out for them. Sheriff's Patrol boat passing us to the south. All right, well, the cell phone camera's been going for 25 minutes, and so has the 360 camera. So I'm going to shut them both down for the time being, and we'll turn them on again when we get up to where we're going to be docking in Lakeport. So we'll catch you all later.